Welcome back. So today we're talking about the most recent event vehicle that I've unlocked, the Spitfire Light Fighter Mark 9. It's in the Allied tech tree with the British and the Americans. In real life it is a British plane. It's a pretty iconic British plane. And honestly in Enlisted it's a pretty decent British plane. So, it's coming in with one 250-pound bomb, 2 Hispano 20mm Mark II cannons, and 2 M2 Browning 50 cals. It has a max speed of 665.99 with a max climb rate of 28.22 and a full best turbo time of 13.55, making it a very agile little beast. And it sits on the 375th Fighter Squadron, so it's competing against the BR2 P51 C10 and the BR3 P51 D5. But it's still competing in slots versus other BR2 planes. And primarily what I ran it up against were the Spitfire Mark 5C Trop, which admittedly is not fully upgraded, the P38G1, which is fully upgraded. All the other planes are fully upgraded. The AP1 and the Dauntless. And probably to no one's surprise, my take is basically that at BR2, and this is because planes at lower BRs are more specialized than they are at higher BRs. Generally speaking, if you're going to go into a ground battle, all Enlisted games are ground battles, aren't they? You're better off bringing an attack plane. And that's mostly because most attack planes are good enough at dogfighting in this game that if you can get behind the enemy, like if you see them first or whatever and you get the drop on them, you stand a pretty good chance of killing them. And if they see you first, well, it doesn't really matter what you're in. Most of the time you're probably screwed. Not always true. Sometimes you can outmaneuver them, and sometimes they outmaneuver themselves. And every once in a while, your tail gunners might do something if you have them. So, the Spitfire, for what it is, it's very good at shooting down enemy planes. It does run into some ammo problems, like if, for example, you need to shoot down an enemy plane, and then you want to go after a wing of enemy bombers, there's a good chance that you're not going to get all the bombers. Now, you could wait to shoot until you're pretty close to them, and you might be able to maximize your ammo, but you only have 270 rounds 20mm between two guns, so that's like 135 rounds for each gun. So you don't really have a ton of ammo, and it's really the 20mm that you're going to depend on. Like, you have a bit more for the 50 cals. It's what, like 260-ish rounds for each gun. It's just usually 50 cals require you to sit on a target longer, and they take more shots to take something down. The thing is, though, the Spitfire is extremely maneuverable, and because it's extremely maneuverable, it's really, really good at keeping enemy planes out of the area. So, if you're up against a German team that's just pumping up planes, then this is a fantastic plane, because you can go and you can just fly circles around them. Not literally, but like, I haven't run into anybody yet that I haven't been able to merge with and get on their tail in this thing. Like, it's a very comfortable plane to fly. And to be honest, it's a pretty nice looking plane. And as much as I say you are better off having some sort of like air-to-ground plane, just because I think it will get you more value, the fact that this has a 250-pound bomb does set it apart, and in my opinion put it ahead of many of its contemporaries, because most of them are going to be coming in with like 2 100-pound bombs, and yes, you have 2 drops, but 100-pound bombs are very, very small. At least with a 250, you don't have to be quite as precise when you're coming in to hit, say, a tank. Arguably against infantry, the 2 100s might be better because you get more drops. It's up to you, but if we're going to start looking at like who gets more drops, then I think I'd rather have the P38, because it's getting 6 rockets, and even though M8 rockets have smaller radius on their explosions, I still think that they're probably better if you're trying to get multiple impacts, and arguably for dealing with vehicles as well, because the M8s, in my experience, do quite well against low BR vehicles, as long as you can be somewhat precise. Which really gets us into its fighter competition. I feel like most of the time I would prefer to have the P-38, because I think it fills a general purpose role better. It is without a doubt inferior as an air superiority fighter, and that's just because its turn time is kind of sluggish, so it's very dependent on having an altitude advantage and being able to drop on your opponents before they know you're there. And like, if you play to its playstyle all the time, and you're always the one picking your engagements, then great, the P-38 is going to be an awesome dogfighter too. Maybe not dogfighter, but air superiority plane. Whereas I feel like the light fighter is more forgiving, because you can be low coming out of your bombing run, and you can jump on an enemy plane, or you can react to somebody trying to slot in on you. Now, the Spitfire Mark 5C trop is basically then at odds with the P-38 because it doesn't get any sort of air-to-ground ordnance. That being said, it does have 2 more 20 mils than the Light Fighter Mark 9, and so in a pure air-to-air engagement role, there's a very compelling argument to taking the Mark 5C trop over the Light Fighter Mark 9. The thing is, it is also quite a bit slower. So, it can turn well, it has a lot of firepower, but it's not as fast. So, that may or may not influence you as to which one you want to put on your lineup. The thing is, you can actually put all 3 of these on your lineup, but they're all fighters, and I don't know if I would normally want to sacrifice 3 slots out of the 10 or 11 you get. You know, if you have every single slot, right? 2 fighters. Like, they're cool, I just don't know if they're that good. And my personal evidence for this is a lot of the time that I spend in low BR fighters, I spend flying circles waiting for something to show up. Whereas if you take something like the AP-1 or the Dauntless, in their case you're bringing quite a bit of bombing firepower. So with the Dauntless, you're bringing a 1,000 pound bomb, you're bringing 2 100s, but really you're bringing it for the 1,000 pound bomb, right? And if there's troop concentrations, they're going to be gone. If there's tanks, you don't even have to be that accurate, you're going to blow them away. With the AP-1, you're getting 2 500 pound bombs, so you have to be a little bit more precise with your weapons placement, but, I mean, it's still 2 500 pound bombs. You can take out 2 vehicles before you even have to go back and rearm. And on top of that, you still have like 2 50 cal machine guns that are front facing, and then you still have 2 turret gunners. You know, one of them's only got a 30 cal, but the other one has a 50 cal. I don't know. I just feel like they bring more value. This is, of course, coming from a, like, purely I want to be competitive standpoint. And likewise, you can take an attack pilot squad, and you can put, like, a P-38G on there. So, if you really wanted to, theoretically, you could just bring 2 P-38s. I mean, I wouldn't, but, again, this is an option that you have. So, given all of what we've just discussed, does the light fighter have a competitive place? Honestly, yes, I think it does. Basically, I think it splits the happy medium between something like the Spitfire Mark 5C trop that is 100% air supremacy, and something like the P-38 that is kind of general purpose, right? I think that the P-38, if the enemy team is calling in bombers constantly, is going to be the better plane because you can shoot all of them down in one pass. Well, not like one pass, but like one ammo load, whereas I think the light fighter is going to struggle with that. But I think in most cases, for most people, having the 1-250 is probably going to equate to a similar number of ground kills to the 6 M8s, just because of the M8 size, and because realistically, if you're going after vehicles, you're not firing 1 or 2 M8s, you're firing all of them. So, 1 bomb, 1 vehicle, 6 rockets, 1 vehicle. I mean, you could do it in less, but like, most of the time, you're going to just fire all of them and saturate it and hope that you kill it. I think that ends up being kind of a wash, but when you're dealing with other players and planes, the light fighter has the advantage, and even though that means that I may not shoot down every bomber, I think it's more important to be able to be reactionary and adapt to incoming enemy planes and shoot them down, and that's something that I think the P-38 struggles with. Whether or not I would bring it as my sole plane, if I only had one slot to put a plane in versus the Dauntless or the AP-1, I think that really comes down to the individual player and what you value. If you care more about clearing the skies, then you're going to bring the light fighter. And if you care about killing stuff on the ground more, then you're going to bring the attack plane. I don't think that either answer is wrong, and I don't think it's as hard or as like specialized of a choice as if you were looking at the Mark 5C, for example, because it just does nothing for ground combat. Whereas, again, you have a 250-pound bomb on the light fighter, you absolutely can influence ground combat. Like, if the other team's capturing a point, a 250-pound bomb in the middle of the point is still going to kill people. If the enemy is a tank, a 250-pound bomb onto the tank is almost always going to kill the tank, assuming that you're accurate. So, thus far, my experience with it has been pretty good. It's just, in low BR, I find that a lot of the time people aren't marking stuff on the ground, which, when you're using 250-pound bombs, it helps to have marks so that you can be more accurate. Plus, at high BR, you've got bigger bombs and more bombs, and things are a little bit more forgiving for bombardment at higher BRs. So sometimes I feel like you do spend a lot of time just circling around, but like, if you know what you're getting into, I think that the Mark 9 can be an excellent plane. So let me know what you think down below. I like it. I think it's a pretty good early reward for the event. I can't complain, but admittedly I know not everybody flies planes. So, as per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.